Deis Trocadó in Anam Choslin Niconley Turkish Shaken.
I'd like to take reassurance that not only have you plans, but you have seriously ambitious and imaginative plans in relation to public transport and to take cars off the road. In that context, I'm asking you in relation to your views on the provision of a light rail system for Galway in view of our serious obligations under climate change objectives that we have to reach, and in view of the many objectives set out in the draft National Planning Framework. So if you could give me your views, and also in relation to any cost-benefit analysis that has been carried out in the relation to the provision of a light rail for Galway.
Minister Gano.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Deputy for the question. I'm sure the Deputy knows that a transport strategy for Galway was prepared by the NTA in partnership with Galway City Council and Galway County Council in 2016. The strategy set out an overall framework for the development of transport infrastructure and services in Galway City and its environs over a 20-year period. It was included in the new City Development Plan, which was adopted by the City Council and came into force in January 2017. I understand that the issue of light rail was considered in the preparation of the transport strategy for Galway City, where it was concluded that there is insufficient demand to justify the significant additional cost of developing a light rail system, and that bus-based public transport represents the most appropriate system for Galway over the period considered in this transport strategy. Accordingly, light rail was not therefore taken forward for economic appraisal in the context of a cost-benefit analysis for this mode of transport. Furthermore, the transport strategy for Galway City concluded that a high-quality bus-based public transport service will cater for the forecasted passenger demand and will provide significant flexibility in terms of network options and the ability to integrate with other modes. The implementation of this strategy is primarily a matter for the local authority. The National Planning Framework is being developed at present under the leadership of the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government. The framework is a long-term strategic planning framework which will guide national, regional and local planning and investment decisions over the period to 2040. In the context of the draft National Planning Framework and key future growth enablers for Galway, the plan recognises the need for provision of a citywide public transport network with enhanced accessibility between existing and proposed residential areas and the city centre, third-level institutions and the employment areas to the east of the city. The current transport strategy for Galway City and background supporting analysis aligns to this need, with its successes being guided by the National Planning Framework. I'm very conscious of the fact that Galway is a kind of microcosm of what's happening in other areas, and that it is suffering particularly in the area of traffic, particularly because of the representations which have been made to me, not just by the Deputy, but by other deputies in Galway. And I do intend to regard it as a priority, and it certainly should not be, if the Deputy is implying that, left out or omitted from any of those schemes which we're introducing to improve traffic nationwide and public transport nationwide.
For supplementary.
Thank you for clarifying that the reason for no light rail in Galway is officially insufficient demand. Number two, that no economic or cost appraisal has ever been carried out. I'd ask you, Minister, to step outside your script and go back to what you referred to earlier in response to another Deputy's question, and you talked about seriously ambitious plans and imagination to lift cars off the road. And I welcome your comment that Galway is a microcosm. So let's look at Galway, a population of 80,000, one of the 5 cities that's destined to grow up to a population of 120,000. It is, in the words of the Conor Fáin in relation to Galway, it is Director of Consumer Affairs, the traffic congestion problems in a modestly sized city like Galway are embarrassingly bad, and he talks about the provision of light rail as an important part of the solution. 176 cities throughout Europe have embraced light rail or tram services. Minister, please, go back to your imagination, go back to your determination. I'm asking for your comments on the provision of a light rail as the most sustainable solution to traffic congestion in Galway, while allowing us to comply with our commitments under climate change.
First response, Minister.
Yeah, I take your point about imagination, I take your point about ambition. We don't have money. That's the problem. We don't have money. That's the problem. The light rail, the light rail was found to be too ambitious in terms of there not being the market demand for it. If there was, and if there was a business case for it, we would certainly would look at it again. But obviously there was a decision made, and that there was not a good business case for light rail at the time. You know, there is definitely an attempt to address the issues of Galway and to address them in the context of the national plan, the national planning framework. It sets out the key future growth enablers for Galway in the area of public transport as follows: progressing the sustainable development of a new greenfield areas for housing and the development of supporting public transport and infrastructure, improving access and sustainable transport links to an integration with the existing employment areas to the east of Galway City, and provision of a citywide public transport network with enhanced accessibility between existing and proposed residential areas and the city centre.
Final supplementary.
You started well, and then you reverted to your script. Let's go back to Galway now, and let's go back to the management that have told us there's no demand for park and ride either, notwithstanding that the elected members put in park and ride as objectives in the City Development Plan in 2005. Management think we must wait for demand. I'm asking you as Minister, who has serious responsibilities here and also imagination, and I can see determination, to look at the provision of light rail for Galway as the most imaginative, number one, but the most sustainable solution to take Galway out of the traffic mess that it has, in addition to park and ride and quite clearly an integrated public transport system. If you don't do that, then you're paying lip service to sustainable development, which is enshrined in the draft national planning framework, and lip service to our commitments to reduce emissions and to get cars off the road. And you have said forcibly to a previous speaker, you want to take cars off the road. We have stale, male, and I use those words advisedly in relation to leadership in Galway for the solution, rather than an imaginative green way forward that will put Galway on the map and will also put it on level with all the other European cities, who some of them of equal size. Thank you, Cahill, for your indulgence.
Right, response.
The Deputy can make a new and fresh case to me for light rail which makes economic or commercial sense. I'd be very happy to listen to it. Of course I will. We have limited funds, as you'll have to be aware. But if you can make a case that is convincing and stands up to scrutiny, sure, I'll spend time looking at it with you. I'd be delighted to do that. On the issue of the budget and regional cities and an environmentally friendly area, you know, direction in which we're going, we are doing real things here. We have got ambitions, and we are putting a lot of this ambition into effect. You know, budget 2018, as I'm sure you might know, and it's not just Dublin-centric, this. It provided a 4-year capital envelope for public transport of over 2.7 billion to 2021. This allows an investment of over 110 million over the next 4 years in cycling and walking.
Thank you, Minister.
And this involves a cycling and walking infrastructure package, not just in the Dublin area, but in Galway, Cork, Limerick and Waterford as well. Sustainable urban transport is the way forward, and it's the way forward in all the cities of Ireland.
Could I just say before you